So did they actually hire actors for that as well?
Yeah, I was there. Well, they didn't hire us, but they do a lot for us. So, so at your traditional Burns supper, you have the immortal memory of Robert Burns, which is somebody gives up and gives a speech, and that's the more serious of them. And then there's the toast to the lasses, which I did this year, which is kind of lighthearted, thing. And then, making fun of the ladies at the place. And then at the end, you're like, yeah, but we couldn't live without you. Here's to the lassies. And then there's the toast to the lads in response. And this year, Chase Treasure, who is a band that performs at our Renaissance Fair, a comedy singing group of ladies in beautiful dresses. So they did this awesome reply to my toast to the lassies.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty fun evening.
Yeah, it's a great time. I love it.
Speaking of the lovely ladies of Chase Treasure.
Yes.
How do you find acts besides the ones that you form yourself? How do you find acts for the fair?
Well, Chase Treasure is an interesting one because I am responsible for the fact Chase Treasure exists. Because our music director, she was our music director.
Yeah.
Now she's like our office manager, administrative, manager, Melissa Baker.
Melissa, okay.
Who is the owner of Chase Treasure.
Yeah.
I told her, because she's an amazing singer.
Yeah.
And I said to her, why don't you form a band of ladies to do these Renaissance Fair songs and stuff like that? I would hire you.
Yeah.
And that's how Chase Treasure got started. Was because I wanted that for the fair. We are at a point now where we get press kits and stuff from everybody all the time. But most of the people we have at the fair are people I personally know and have seen and performed with. We have a very interesting, especially John and I amongst our ownership team, have a very interesting perspective because we travel and perform. We own the fair and our producers and that kind of stuff. So we kind of see it from both sides, It makes it kind of hard for me sometimes going out to other fairs because I can't get mad at the managers and owners of the fair anymore because I completely understand what they're going through. Like when they forget something or whatever, I'm just like, oh yeah, I get that. I would do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess just pay us sometime,
Once in a while.
Yeah. But every once in a while I'll see something that's really great and I'll, approach them and bring them in. But I mean, we get a lot of stuff. I very rarely book anybody who just sends us press kits.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people who are like, hey, I've done all this stuff. Hire me. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. And can you send me some video? Because certainly not going to hire you off the top of your head. Yeah, but it's, we try to stay within our budget. I think, most everybody. And I try to be loyal to the people because John and I knew a lot of people. So we had a lot of people when we started out doing this who did the show for us at a rate way cheaper than they would have done it for anybody else. And so usually the way I go with things is like, you got a job with us as long as you don't mess up. And the people like you or whatever. So.
Yeah, and New Jersey Fair it seems to be much more, you guys are a lot closer than a lot of fairs. A lot of fairs are more business-like from what I've seen. And this is just as a patron person who goes and occasionally talks to people and meets actors or acts behind the scene. But I have never heard acts complain, about the Jersey Fair.
They have, make no mistake. I'm usually.
I'm sure they have.
We try. We try to treat everybody. You can't please everybody all the time, and anybody who does this running this fair is the most complicated thing I've ever been involved in, and it's crazy. And usually, so we have our main entertainment staff is you got Phil, the artistic director, who is just very stoic and like, like he's like at this distance that people don't like approach him, right? And then you got John, who's like the happy guy everybody loves, right? So if people are going to get mad at anybody on our team, it's me, right? And I'm also the guy signing the contracts and stuff for the independents,
right?
And if we have a reason, like if we for some reason don't hire people back, like we way overpaid for entertainment for a very long time based on the size fair we did. I had way too much stuff. So we had to make some really hard decisions. And those people who are on the other ends of those hard decisions, sometimes they think you're the devil incarnate. Yeah. And they talk about that at parties for years, so I get to hear people like, this person said this thing. And I'm like, and you got to really just let that go, and I completely understand it. But the people who are like the really professional acts, like they get it all the time. Like anybody, if you're going to be a performer, you have to accept the fact that you're not going to get cast sometimes, or else you're going to drive yourself crazy, But so like the people like, like the Shelley Buttons of the world, or like, Paul Garbanzos, and people who are doing this all the time, like they understand people make, and you never completely understand the reasons necessarily. Yeah. Like, and I've had that. Like, I've had people not cast us. Yeah. And you can't take it personally, because if you do, this is not the line of work for you. Yeah. Because you're gonna not get cast a lot more than you're gonna get cast. Yeah. So. Oh man, I had to follow up to that. I can't remember what it was.
Well, while you're thinking of that,
ADD
since you mentioned that you have a mix of professional actors and people who are just gonna walk off and try to audition. When you say professional actors, is this part of equity?
So, or is there no, not necessarily. We have, I think equity is allowed to perform at Renaissance fairs because they don't really consider it real theater, right? So,
they don't even bother with this.
Yeah, like whatever, you could do that. It's not hurting us. So we have the cast, right? And that was when I was talking about the professional, the principal cast who does like the Shakespeares and the shows, and they're able to be there. And then we have our supporting cast, which is, like mostly our volunteers and that kind of stuff. A lot of those people are way good enough to be in this group. It's just they got real jobs. They got day jobs they do, The people over here are people who are making their living as actors, right? And they go to auditions all the time, and that's what they do. So, like I said, we got people who are engineers who come on the weekend, and they're like a ragmonger or a fishmonger or something. A hobby. Right. So that's the cast, all right? And they put those people aside. We also have independent acts, right? So my show that I do with John, the Lords of Adventure, fairs will hire us to come in and do our show like 3 times a day. At our fair, that has nothing to do with the cast and the plot line and all that kind of stuff. So you can come see our Lords of Adventure show. It's completely separate from the plot line you were talking about before. So you
don't have to understand what the plot of it.
It's an independent, stand on its own show.
So you can see it separately. You come in and see it.
Right. Like if you were a juggler who had a comedy show and I hired you to do our show.
I am. How'd you?
There you go. Perfect. I could feel it. I've been doing this long enough. So, but if I hired you to come in and do your show, I don't want to deal with what you need to write the scripts for that and do the whole thing. I expect you to come in and do a good show 3 times a day. You're an independent contractor. You're an independent contractor. Yep. So that's the whole, our overall cast, right, includes our in-house acting company, which is the principal supporting people I talked about. It includes the independent performers. It also includes all the merchants and vendors who come, because we have about 70 or more people who have shops and sell things there, right? Because that creates the village, right? Because otherwise, it's just an empty spot. Yeah. So between shows, people go shop and hang out. We have the food merchants. We got the guys who work in the parking lot. We got the people who are working up at the ticket booth. Like, that is our cast, right? They are all part of the experience that people get when they come to the Renaissance Fair.
So that's pretty complex gig.
It's crazy complex.
3 weekends,
and you can't see everything on one day.
Right. That's part of our secret plot.
Yeah. So how many days do you think it would take to see everything?
Well, it depends on... We'll see everything? I mean... I don't even know. I mean, I think it'd take a couple weekends because I don't even think you could see all the shows in 2 days.
Which is why you should buy a season pass.
You should totally buy a season. Please buy a season pass.
Nice plug.
You know how, like with Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club? You got to talk about this Fight Club. As many people as you can. NJRenFaire.com. People got kids to go to college. Please. So.
But yeah, because you've got that. So you got the plot. You've got all the musical acts.
Another thing is, like we talked about the sporting cast.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have weird, different stuff happen every day.
That's true, I see.
Because they're just in character improv.
Random interactions, right? Yeah.
So there's stuff that you can see. There is different stuff that will happen with the cast every single day of the fair. And because it's interactive theater, every show is going to be... Like, if you see me and John do our show, it's going to be different a little bit every day. Like, we got a script that we stay with, but, weird stuff's going to happen depending on how the acting thing is. Shakespeare...
Oh yeah, Shakespeare. Yeah.
He is the greatest interactive performer I have ever seen in my entire life. He handles a crowd like no one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Crazy. Shout out to Dan Costello, William Shakespeare. Shakespeare approves.
Yeah, we got to get him on because
you definitely need to get him on.
So what his act is just his.
He is
his Shakespeare.
It's called Shakespeare Approves.
Yeah.
And he is William Shakespeare. And I mean, I think he might actually be William Shakespeare. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But he does these comedy versions of the Shakespeare plays. Like he does Macbeth, Death by Fluffy Kittens.
Okay,
right?
So he does tragedies as comedies. Or
He does all of them. He does
Yeah, I mean-
Romeo and Juliet, the Flying Implement of Doom edition. And he makes the audience be his actors.
Yeah.
And he usually incorporates 20 to 30 audience members in every show.
Yeah.
But he's off the rails ridiculous. Like he's got one that's what is it? Julius Caesar, beware the Ides of the March of the Penguins. Right? So yeah. It's great. Hamlet, the Christmas special. Like it's wild.
And then last year he was one of the Saturday concerts.
Yeah. He
And
did a whole hour and a half. Yeah.
He did a mashup of like 10 different Shakespeare plays.
Mm-hmm.
That were all working around in his head. So it was awesome.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant, and he is one of the bravest comedians I've ever seen because he just tries stuff and he never stops. Yeah, John and I like kind of directed him too because like we were on directing staff when he first started at Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to see what he's become because of everybody I've seen. Like John and I were pretty good, interactive theater, all this kind of stuff. But like Dan, as far as handling a crowd, is the best of us that I've ever seen, hands down. Like it's crazy.
He's really good.
Yeah. Unless Cold Derringer Lawman brings him down.
All right.
So
Good segue.
Yeah.
All right.
So we talking about that?
Yeah, why not? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Murder mysteries.
So we also do murder mysteries.
Yeah.
At the fair? Or
No, they're separate. Usually they're set in like the 1920s. But I play this character, Colt Derringer Lawman, United States Bureau of Investigations, who is a 1920s gumshoe detective who solves heinous murder crimes. And he's from out west, Pittsburgh. Beautiful town. It's dang near Ohio. It's the westest part of Pittsburgh. But we bring in the people, and then we solve these heinous murder crimes, right? And we're good at it, too. We're like a pelican at a raisin-eating contest. It's an exciting situation. So, murder mysteries, people come in.
Yeah.
Interactive dinner theater. There's been a murder. They are stupid. And I said it in the best possible way. We just did one where John Williams was playing Ezekiel Hezekiah Luther Jupiter, who had this cult where everybody, like, you have to cast off your moon name and eventually embrace your planet name. So, like, like TJ Miller would be my moon name. And then eventually I would be named something like Dante Horatio Mars or whatever. But what happens in this cult is when someone gets married, the bride will go into her purification pod for 10 days before the wedding. And then she emerges into the ceremony, all this kind of situation. But the bride was killed to death.
Oh.
She was killed in a heinous murder crime. Turns out she decided she was going to go against the cult. She wasn't going to pull her little plot off on this fella because she had fallen in love with him. Situation. Anyhow, so of course, because I'm a master of disguise, when the wedding started and the bride came forward and then Josh lifted the veil to reveal his beautiful bride, it was actually Colt Derringer Lawman, deep in disguise. And I understand. I'll tell you what, I felt good in that dress. The bureau made it for me with special fit and everything. Did. I didn't feel like a platypus with a mullet in that thing. I'll tell you what, I felt pretty good.
Satin.
What's that?
Satin.
I don't know anything about that, sir. I care about three things. I like the Constitution, justice, and the memory of the noble passenger pigeon.
Yours was the first murder mystery I had never been to.
Oh my gosh, really? It was. What was happening in that one? Was it Colt Derringer? It was one of the Colt Derringer.
Yeah, it was one of the Colt Derringer ones. It was definitely a.
I got a page on Facebook too. You should check it out.
What do you do?
Prohibition one.
We got about 4 or 5 venues we use. So usually when I book a murder mystery, I try to schedule it so that we can do 3 or 4 different locations on different nights because they have different crowds. The one we do most often is a place called O'Connor's American Bar and Grill, which is down in East Hampton, New Jersey.
It fits very well for the prohibition because you like, especially if you do it in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like looks kind of like speakeasy down there.
Yeah. And I think it was upstairs that I went to the other one that you had, the classic, what do you call it? Literary.
Oh yeah. Was that with the Poe? That was Poe. Because your lady loves Poe.
Yeah.
She loves my Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what? Yeah. Poe had died, right?
Poe had died, and he had set up this, like, in case something happened to him, he'd set up this murder mystery for like Emily Dickinson and Nathaniel Hawthorne and Longfellow, and Sarah Helen Whitman was there.
Yeah.
And who else? I think that might have been it. Yeah. So he'd kind of set up this murder mystery.
And one of them was the murderer, in quotes.
Right. In his thing that he had written.
Yes.
And Arthur Conan Doyle was there as the detective.
Yeah.
That's who I actually was.
That's right, yeah. So
that happened completely because I didn't want to shave. I didn't want the creepy post-stash this year. So I was Conan Doyle. Yep. Yeah.
That was good because there were multiple layers. You know,
yes.
The actors acting like the
suspects.
Characters, but then acting like the suspects.
The great thing about that murder mystery for us was because, number one, in the story, Poe had written it and he was dead.
Yeah.
Right? So you couldn't go to the source for information. Because usually what happens in all these murder mysteries is people will invariably ask you questions that you didn't think about. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, well, where's your room in the mansion?
Yeah.
And the actors haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
And then they'll go talk to somebody else and they'll get a different answer. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, ha, I caught you in a lie.
Yeah.
But with this one, they didn't know that the characters didn't know that they were going to be in it. And they got this packet of information from Poe, right? So the only information they had was what was in this packet.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot easier. Because like when people ask that, like, well, where was your room in the mansion? They're like, I don't know. It's not in my packet.
Yeah.
This is what I know. So I'm guessing that information's not important because he didn't put it in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. That was a great format for us. That worked out really well.
Yeah.
That made our lives a lot easier on the actual thing. Because you got to really... Writing those is complicated. I usually am the one who writes those shows. And you got to try to really think about everything that happened. What I usually try to do is I figure out what actually happened in the murder. Mm-hmm. Right? Not what the guy who did it or the girl who did it wants you to think.
Yeah.
But what actually happened. And then you build everything off of that.
Right.
I think a problem people have when they try to write these things is they try to work backwards to the murder.
Okay. Yeah.
And so then you're going to get things wrong. And the crowd, because a lot of people who come to these are super into it, they're going to pick up on it.
Yeah.
Like anytime you got timeline stuff wrong, like you should try to find out what happened with the murder. And then the timeline of like when the detective got called in, when did the authorities know that this happened? How did it happen? Because if you know what actually happened, you can get all your facts right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, not based on what the person wants you to think happened, but what actually happened at the murder.
Yeah, I think mystery writers do something like that, right?
It's very important. You almost have. I don't see how you could do it any other way. I mean, I know you can do it other ways, and I've seen it happen. I've been in shows where I'm the detective, and you realize there's just major holes in the plots of the thing. That like this, doesn't work. Like we had one where a guy was, he did it for the money, and there was like this check that was there for these people. And I'm like, so, when we're going through this stuff, I'm like, so what you're saying is this guy murders this guy to get this money, which is a check, and now he's going to take it and cash it?
Seems pretty.
It doesn't seem like a really good plan for getting away with a murder. And you've set it up that this guy is like this major genius, right? So maybe it should be cash or something. I don't know. Like even that, it got like real, because it's like you got to really try to think about stuff too. Especially, it's really hard to write one of those. I think where you're like include somebody in there who's like this major genius.
Maybe it's a super genius.
Yeah, but even that, like, I am not that person, right? I'm not a super genius, right? So it's very hard to write from the perspective of somebody who's got that level of intelligence.
Plus,
you got to keep it a little simpler.
I was referring to Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
Plus, then if somebody's going to solve it,
super genius.
Yeah, like Wile E. Coyote, then they'd have to be a super genius too.
Well, they wouldn't have it's just weird. Like, yeah, I don't know. just this idea, and then people write these things like that are supposed to be like these murders that were performed by like this like brilliant criminal mastermind, and I'm like, that's not the thing you wrote was not done by a criminal mastermind. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
It was OJ.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you want to kind of make it like somebody who's, I don't know. For me, it's like a little easier if the murderer is a little bit of a buffoon, so that they mess up and they leave these kind of breadcrumbs that people can find.
Yeah, yeah. Or it was a crime of passion.
Mm-hmm.
So there was open options.
So is there a fan base for Mr. Dinner Theater as well as the Ren Faire? Does that overlap?
Yeah, they overlap. Now the thing with the murder mystery that's nice for the Renaissance Fair, in order for us to be successful, we need like 3,000 people to come on a day, right? For the murder mysteries, if we get 80 people, that's a great show. We sold that out, right? So, but we have a core of people who like to come. We always usually get a couple new people. What I try to find with the venues is venues that have a following of their own. Like, so O'Connor's, most of our ticket sales are because they put up flyers at their restaurant and they get people all the time. So people see it and they're like, oh yeah. And, we get some people, like you guys might show up. Yeah. I got like a core group of people who come see our shows. But the venues have to be far enough apart that it's not the same fan base.
Yeah, you want to cannibalize it.
Right. Yeah. Because I had that before. Like I used to have a place that was close to O'Connor's that we do. And that would just split that crowd. I didn't need to do that. I could just put them all in the one venue. And
so you write new shows all the time?
Yeah, usually. We haven't really recycled any murder mysteries yet. So, and I wouldn't want to unless we went to a completely new.
Right. Otherwise, who's going to come back if they saw it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so Poe. We might as well get to Poe.
Might as well.
Why Poe? Okay, so sorry. You act as Poe sometimes.
I do. I perform as
You do.
I've done that a bunch of years.
His stories or poems, very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kate freaks out whenever she learns you're going to do it. So why Poe?
I think based on there's a lot of Renaissance fairs that I know of. We started in Pennsylvania. They would do an Edgar Allan Poe Halloween show. We got friends who work in Florida who the off-season Renaissance Fair people do Poe during Halloween. So it just seemed kind of natural situation. I never dreamed or thought that I would be able to ever play Poe. Because I did it back in Pennsylvania when I was working there. And the people who did it at the time, I was a new actor and I kind of idolized those people, So I can't really remember how I actually wound up doing it. I don't remember. But at this point in time, after having done it, so why Poe? It was just kind of a standard thing for Halloween that people like.
Okay.
And, we had a bunch of friends. It was a formula that worked for other places that we've been. But now, all of the acting I do throughout the year is, it's slapstick, dumb, fun. Poe is the one time I feel like I get to actually act, with dramatic performances and stuff. And people love it. People love that stuff. And the Poe stories, and we've kind of added H.P. Lovecraft now.
I love that you added Lovecraft.
Yeah, they really they work great in that kind of intimate, because we split the crowd up. We usually do 3 or 4 different shows.
Yeah.
Like we'll do like Telltale Heart, and then we'll do like a piece by Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And last year we had, we try to find new kind of horror things. There was a piece called The Yellow Wallpaper. Did you hear that one? Read that if you get a chance.
I've read it. Yeah.
It's this lady who's like locked in an attic, and she starts thinking that there's this woman living behind this like hideous yellow wallpaper on the thing. Melissa did it, and it was great.
And she had the absinthe, and
yeah. So it fits it really well, and I really, it's so, his stuff is so powerful and just heart-wrenching, like doing The Raven. Everybody kind of thinks of it as like a horror piece, but he was writing that when his wife was dying of consumption.
Yeah. So
for me, like I'm getting like a little emotional thinking about it right now. So, but being in that moment of this guy who's like losing his wife, is I made these high school girls cry one time. I did it at like a coffee shop.
Really?
Yeah, and I saw them sitting there. They're like had their arm around each other, and they were like looking and just like crying, But it's genuine, human emotion, and it's like insanity, and one thing I really like about Poe is there's very few of Poe's stories that are supernatural. At the end of House of Usher, there's kind of like some kind of supernatural agency where the house breaks apart. But for the most part, it's just humans. Yeah. Like if you read Black Cat, that guy, because I've done Telltale Heart and I've done Black Cat. Telltale Heart, you can kind of feel bad for the narrator. Yeah. Because they're crazy, right? Yeah. That guy from Black Cat is... Yeah. He's not a good human ever. Like the stuff he does to that cat and just... That's serial killer stuff, and no remorse or anything. And that to me is what is terrifying. When you get
scarier than make up.
Because that could happen. That's a dude who will kill you. Right? Yeah. As opposed to, like any kind of supernatural stuff. Like I want to go into like a haunted house because I think that stuff is cool, but yeah, really scary things. It's even like when you watch like zombie movies. It's not the zombies that are scary. Yeah. It's the humans,
making stupid decisions.
Yeah. Because we make bad decisions a lot, and that's what I like about Poe. And I love Lovecraft too, but I just love that like psychological horror. And just delving into like the human psyche that Poe does is so.
They're kind of flip sides of the.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing I do during the year is Poe because we're so silly and stupid all the time. Same thing. Places we do murder mysteries really. Oh, we do it at Valentino Winery, down in South Jersey. We'll probably do it at O'Connor's. That's where we did that last year. We did Poe as a murder mystery last year, and that was because that's what Valentino wanted. They wanted a murder mystery show with Poe, which I think worked out good. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much any place that'll take us. There's a theater in Bordentown called Open Arts Theater. We perform there sometime. That's like
I like that one very much.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's an actual theater that has like sound and lighting and all this kind of stuff. So,
yeah, you get a lot of drama out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Poe is interesting because I start getting like. Understanding Poe. Like I've written some poems that are in the voice of Poe. And that letter I wrote during the
for the murder mystery.
I personally feel like that sounded very like something Poe would have written. Like I feel like I kind of have an understanding of him. I don't think I would have liked him as a human. He was very like if you really read very whiny. Yeah. And like all these letters he wrote to these ladies.
And
drunk. Yeah. He was so poor me and I can't believe you're gonna leave me and I guess I'll just go kill myself because I don't think anything's gonna get better. And these women of the 1800s like ate it up. Yeah. Because he had all these married ladies and all these people who were just and he was writing these love poems to some of these ladies while we talk about Virginia dying. Yeah. While she was on her deathbed with consumption, he's like courting these other people. Yeah. So again, not a brilliant. The stuff he wrote was brilliant. And just so heartfelt. But he was kind of like the original goth kid. Like everything I just feel it so deeply. And I love you so much. And once upon a midnight dreary.
That could be an interesting character. A different version of
that'd be awesome.
One of my favorite times to do Poe. Oh my god, this is so bad. But John was playing Frederick Douglass in the show, right? So Frederick Douglass, was a great orator, abolitionist, all this kind of stuff. And so when I'm Poe, I'm moping around, and blah, blah, blah. And so John comes over, he's like, "Oh, Mr. Poe, what's wrong, Mr. Poe?" And I'm like, "Well, my wife died of consumption." And he's like, oh, I suppose she probably died in the hospital, right? Yeah, that's probably was pretty nice for you, wasn't it? Yeah, and I guess she didn't get sold off to another man while you had to get beat while she watched. Oh yeah, things are real bad for you, Mr. Poe. That's all. I don't know. I'm just I'm gonna leave now. This kind of gives it a different perspective. Yeah, the team of Frederick Douglass and Edgar Allan Poe is pretty hilarious.
That could be another thing, and you're welcome to steal that idea as well if you just combine different people in mystery and get them together.
That's what we do. We kind of do that. Like I said, our last murder mystery was we brought Emily Dickinson in. she's another one who's just fascinating. But Poe really liked her stuff, apparently.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and then Longfellow, Poe just horribly criticized him all the time.
Yeah.
So even in this like posthumous murder mystery he wrote, he was just making fun of him, and like he was like, you know, I could understand how if you were a horrible writer like Mr. Longfellow, you might want to, you know. But we had him, we had Nathaniel Hawthorne. Sarah Helen Whitman was one of Poe's girlfriends, who was a poet. Yeah. So, and that's the thing too, H.P. Lovecraft is there, so we kind of have like some little time jumping stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But you should throw like a ridiculous character in the middle of it, like OJ. Like Gilbert Godfrey.
That'd be awesome. I got a friend who plays Gilbert Godfrey too.
Really?
Yeah.
There you
John
go.
Deviney.
Bring him in.
Our buddy John Deviney, who used to do PA. What I want to do, here's the post show I want to do.
Yeah.
Is John Williams plays Papa Legba.
Oh.
Kind of in the fashion of like same kind of costume as he had in Coven.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he's like the hoodoo intermediary between the living and the dead. So he comes out and he summons forth these dead like actors, right? So you got Poe, Shakespeare, Lovecraft shows up, Mary Shelley, right? And they all come in doing like the bells, right? And then they each do their plays, but like, so for Shakespeare does Macbeth, but like in a really creepy, like Sleep No More kind of like really hit all the like, you know, the blood on the hands and the witches and all those kinds of stuff. And then they all do their stuff. So yeah, that's what I want to do, where he summons them back. That requires a little bit more stage production and stuff that we usually are interested in doing.
I'd love to see that
this time of year. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna do that one year. It's gonna be cool. And they each do like one of their masterworks. I'm actually pretty excited about. I think you could do a really cool, really creepy rendition of Macbeth.
Yeah.
If you hit on all the like,
Well,
you know, the horror elements.
Plenty
of
of
definitely.
stuff to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, because if you get that really craven kind of feeling, it's played so overly dramatically every time I've seen it. You know, it's very would you call it broad? I don't know.
Have you heard of Sleep No More?
No.
You guys should go to Sleep No More.
Yeah.
Yes. It's in New York City, and it's a 6-story building, and you basically can wander everywhere. They give you a mask, like one of those masks with like the white with big nose and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah. And they put you on an elevator, and they'll let you out of the elevator, but then they'll keep your wife on the elevator and they split you up because they're like, it's an individual experience, right? So there's no talking, and you just wander wherever you want in this whole 6-story building. And you know who the actors are because they don't have the masks on, right? And it's kind of like dance choreography. They say it's like a cross between Macbeth, film noir, and like the Roaring Twenties kind of situation. So you start out in this little speakeasy. But it's kind of this like dance choreography stuff, like retelling the story of Macbeth. And there's like a hedge maze on one of the floors. There's a sanitarium with all these things, and you can look through everything. Like you can look at like the records on next to the bed, and then there's like a padded room which has like stuff written on it. There's this graveyard in there. It's awesome. They consider the building itself to be one of the characters in it. So you can like open letters and look at them. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And every time you go, different stuff. Like I've been 3 times, and different stuff happens every time. And I don't know how the actors do that show, because it's pretty psychologically intense. Like I think you would be messed up and probably drinking a lot if you were doing that show. Yeah.
Speaking of how you do a show, how do you remember Poe? I mean, now you've done it so many times.
Yeah. I usually, if you notice, will do one of 3 things. Usually I'll either do Black Cat or Telltale Heart.
Yes.
Or Hop Frog.
Hop Frog, yeah.
Yeah. And the Raven is usually in my head most of the year, most of it.
Yeah.
So my secret is the Connecticut Renaissance Faire. Okay?
That's your secret.
Yes, because I have all of those shows on CD, right? With tracks. So, 3 or 4 paragraphs each track. So as I'm driving on my 4-hour drive back and forth to Connecticut, I'm just listening and remembering it over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you recite it too, or is
I'll play a track and then I'll recite it until I feel like it's totally in my head, and then I'll go on to the next track, and then I'll try to do it, and then at some point before the show, a couple times I'll get up and I'll run it on its feet to know what I want to have. It's doing Poe the way we do it, where you usually have one person telling one of the stories. It's a 20-minute monologue.
Yeah.
It's crazy. First couple times, until those shows now are easier because I've done them enough that it doesn't take me super long to get those back in my head.
Right.
But we have actors who do the show for us who like they have a real hard time, going into it. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's like learning any other monologue, but you got almost like a half an hour by yourself.
Yeah, and then you have to decide how to perform it. And
the thing with Poe actually too is his language is so rich and thick, and he uses these like words, So, and he'll say the same thing a bunch of times in these different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist about it. Like I want to say the stuff that he said the way he said it and the way he wanted it to be said. Right? So yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
The Raven was actually easier because it's almost like a song.
Yeah.
Because it's got rhyme structure and the same syllable structure throughout and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, as opposed to just telling the story of Telltale Heart or something.
So your podcast is something you started recently too? On top of
we're 3 episodes in. It's the Path of Action. Yeah, and again, that was mainly just because I love philosophy. I was a philosophy major at Rutgers, and I don't feel like there's a lot of opportunities to just have those conversations with people. So yeah, me and my buddy Mike, he's actually one of my best friends from growing up. He grew up like 6 doors down from where I lived. He's got a podcast called The Bunker, and he talks about like high strangeness and paranormal and all this kind of stuff. But he'd done it before, so yeah, he kind of knows how to get it out there and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about it, that we would just like to have some of these conversations. So.
Yeah, I listened to one because I got a link from Alec. It was interesting. So
thank you.
Yeah, I liked your superpower, the follow-through.
Follow through.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a superpower.
Show up.
What's that?
Yeah. Show up.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy though.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is hard. Like I know I got so many people in my life who don't. That we have all these ideas of things that we want to do, and I don't know how people think they're going to happen, but yeah, I mean, that's been I just don't stop until the thing gets done.
No, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm not an auditory learner. But it really struck me because,
and yet you have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
he doesn't listen to it.
I watch it.
Okay.
After we record it, I watch it.
Oh, I got you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I connected with that because I am mostly an introvert, but I'm also a teacher, so that's a hard job for me. So every day it's a struggle to get up in front of people and teach.
Yeah.
Even though I know that the subjects now have been doing it long enough to do it, but yeah, I follow through, and focusing is very important, and so I really connected with what you were talking about. Yeah,
and I think that to me is the main thing of the path of action.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it was called that is when I was in college, I had a Buddhist philosophy class, and there was we read a book called The Foundations of Tibetan Mysticism by a guy named Lama Govinda. And it talked about the great mantra, which is Om Mani Padme Hum, and all the parts of it broke it down. But there was this like add-on part at the end, which was the path of action. And, everybody kind of knows Om as like the mantra that's everything's connected or whatever. Is like going out there into the world and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. So
that was what we made as the symbol for our Adventurers Guild, which is on the cover of the book. It's like we took that symbol, we put a compass around it, and they put like AG in the middle, so it's like the Adventurers Guild, right? So that was very important to us with our whole, Adventure Handbook and the Lords of Adventure thing. So when we found out that name was available, it was like, the universe was saying, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was no Path of Action podcast. I was very surprised.
Well, somebody had a plan for it, but didn't show up.
Or they had the Path of Action, and then like 3 or 4 other podcasts started with names similar. and then they went out of business, and then we showed up and we got it.
Oh no, it's another one.
And then people are gonna be suing me. I own every iteration of the name Path of Action. I don't know if you know that. Like, whoa, dude, that's weird because nobody ever anywhere has you registered for that.
Even sidewalk of action, a gravel.
The trail of action.
Path O action.
The better people will also be like the super highway of action, the high speed rail line of action.
The hyperloop.
And we'll be done. We'll be like, oh man.
Autobahn.
That's the German one.
Yeah.
So what else?
Do we have all right. So you've been 10 years, New Jersey Fair.
Yes, sir.
Where did you see Jersey Fair going?
Well, I would love it to get to the point where it's like a 6 to 8 week fair, and us have our own property with stages and booths that people make and a permanent site. Having 5,000-6,000 people a day, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I would love that. I would love the fair to get to the point where we can hire the staff we need to do a lot of these things, so that those of us who started it can go back to doing the things that we like and we're actually good at.
Yeah. Because
as a new business, we've had to do all of the things that we're probably like C+ at, to the sacrifice of the things that we're A+ at, right? I shouldn't be the office manager that I have been for the past 9 years or whatever. Like, that's not, you don't want me in that job. I am not a type A personality, and I hate doing it, right? So yeah, if we were able to hire the staff that we had where we could, enjoy it and do the entertainment stuff and choreograph fights and get out there and direct the people in the things and do some shows if we want. But also to have that support, those other things, so that we would like that to be our year-round, job that kind of supports us, sort of situation. So, and it's getting there. We had a real good year last year, so,
Yeah, I got my fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
But would you would need indoor locations?
No, an outdoor, a fair site.
But if you do it all year long.
Well, no, we wouldn't do the fair all year long, but we would do murder mysteries.
Oh, I see
and we could do like Dickens shows. We could do H.P. Lovecraft Festival. We could do like a Sleepy Hollow thing.
So just keep rotating.
Yeah, we could do Celtic Music festivals. Have a festival grounds basically.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and another nice thing too, when you get a permanent site, people who are vendors, like if you sell swords or whatever, you can come there and you buy a little piece of property from us so you can build a shop. So when you show up, you don't have to set up a tent or whatever. Yeah, you just come in and set up your stuff. We could have all the stages up all the time. So we roll in and you just kind of turn the lights on.
Yeah.
Make sure stuff doesn't need to be repaired. But it makes life a lot easier. We are kind of in the middle of that at Liberty Lake because we're not a tent site. Right? Like if you go to have you been to the Florida Renaissance Festival?
No.
The one in Fort Lauderdale? They have one of the biggest non-permanent locations in the country. That's a Bobby Rodriguez show. And that's in Fort Lauderdale. And they do it in a public park. And every year they come in, they got to set up their gate. That's nothing. That's like a park. So they got to build every stage. Oh, all the vendors come in, set up their tents, all that kind of stuff. So that's a tent show, right? When they leave, you can't tell it's there. We kind of are in the middle of that because we're at Liberty Lake. So most of our stages at this point are already pre-built. So they're just there. Yeah. We have to build our joust field and our joust list every year. And the vendors still, for the most part, come in and have tents. We got a couple booths. One of them is mine, me and my dad. That's another business I have. My dad and I, we sell wooden swords for kids. So we make those and training weapons and stuff like that. So I have a booth that I built. And the main reason I have that booth is because during the fair time, I don't have time to set up a tent.
Yeah.
So that's there. We also have a booth for Dice Nights Adventures, which stays up. But you could have more people build their own little shops. And then it starts looking like a town.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Makes life a lot easier.
I'm overwhelmed.
Me too. I gotta cut out some projects.
No, you do a million different things.
I know, it's too much. Like I said, I don't even remember. Like just now, people asked in the beginning, like I didn't think about that sword thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, the funny thing is, that is the thing that I make most of my money at from the year.
Oh, really?
More than any of the other stuff is that sword thing, which I forgot about until the very end, right?
Well, because you're never there.
Well, no, I have to do that. I have to make those swords. I got a shop, at Liberty Lake that I set up.
Do you make them or does your dad?
My dad makes like custom stuff.
Yeah.
I do like most of the mass production. Mm-hmm. Like we make the kids' swords and they're all, we got like jigs set up. So I'll cut it and I'll do like 100 of those. And then I'll go over here and I'll cut the handle out on this other piece of machinery I got set up.
Right.
So that's just like mass production, at this point. It's handmade, but it's all set up on routers and stuff where, Yeah. Yeah. You cut out the general shape and then you take another router then you do the general shape of the blade and then the handle. And then you go over here to this router and you cut the edge on the blade. And then you round off the edge of the handle so it's cool.
Yeah.
And then you attach the hilt. And you got a sword. So it's like 5 or 6 steps. Well, first you got to cut out the blanks. So it's like 5 or 6 steps, and then you got a sword. And I'll do one step for like 150 swords or whatever. And then I'll do step 2 for those same ones. And then, that kind of situation.
You're your own Henry Ford.
Yeah. I hope to be less racist. Yeah.
Probably easy to be less racist than Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Making him out of hemp.
Yeah. That would be good, actually.
So we were talking to TJ Miller, who's not a type A personality, but has like 30 job on.
No one told him.
No one told me. I can't stop. I can't say no to stuff. Like if you said to me, like, "Wow, dude, this is a cool thing. We should do it." I'd be like,
you had to put back the podcast today because you were reading. What were you doing?
I was reading Native American stories.
Yeah.
In a teepee at Liberty Lake for their open house.
Yeah. So.
And mainly, I wound up mainly helping the kids make s'mores.
Sounds good
by the
to
campfire. Yeah.
Not a bad day. Summer's out.
I actually only read one story during the day because people weren't super into it. I talked a lot about the martial arts and fencing that we do at camp. I had one little boy and his sister, and I told a story about I can't remember what Seneca story about the thundering people of Niagara Falls. Which is why the thunder happens, because it's a reminder that we are blessed by the world around us. Because this girl, she went over the waterfall, and she'd always given, sacrifices to the falls and the thunder beings that lived in there and make all the sound. So the king of the thunder beings decided he wanted to marry her when she went over the falls. So now you can still hear her voice. When the thunder comes, you hear her voice. And it's a reminder that everything is connected and we're blessed by the natural world around us.
I was wondering who that was talking to me.
And it was cool because the best thing happened a little bit today, but the best thing that ever happened to me working at summer camp was I took we had a giant, massive thunderstorm. Crazy, like scary. And it was like right there. And there were these 2 little girls who were scared to death of the thunder. One of them, her dad had been in high school when I did my student teaching, right? Used to be a teacher, high school teacher. Different story altogether. Okay. But so she feels like we're like great buddies because every time she sees me, my daddy said hi. I'm like, okay, awesome. You tell him I said hi. But so we're at this pavilion and there's all the kids from camp are split into like 3 of these wooden pavilions. And you got like the older boys in there and they're just loud. And this girl's crying and she's like, and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, it's so loud. And I'm like, no, the thunder's awesome. Dude, come here for a second. And I'm like, why are you scared? And she's like, well, because it's so loud. And I go, well, it's not as loud as them. Because all the like little, pre-high school boys are like being loud. And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, do you like fireworks? She's like, yeah. I'm like, it's like the same thing. It's like nature's fireworks. So now the lightning's happening. Every time there's thunder, we're like, yay! Me and this girl who was crying 2 minutes ago. And we're like, yay! And then this other girl from the camp, she's like, ah! And we're like, are you scared? And she's like, yeah. And we're like, come on over, hang out with us. So by the end of it, me and these 2 girls, who were probably like 8, 9, are just like cheering like maniacal, like yay! Every time thunder happened, we're like, woo! And their parents are like, I don't know what you did, but like she loves the lightning now. And they were scared. So I got 2 kids to not be afraid of the thunder anymore. If that's all I ever accomplished at this summer camp, I did my job. But that's one of the reasons I keep doing the summer camp is because that is some awesome life-changing stuff that happens there all the time. Like you get some serious moments at the camp. I'll tell you what. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Moments like that. And they happen every day. Like I said, if that was the only moment I ever had, like to me, that feels worth it. Like little kid who was scared of the thunder and lightning, no longer scared of thunder and lightning. But that's what I said. That's why I keep going back to the summer camp because it's Yeah. I mean, camp is intense.
Yep.
Yeah. Really good. Good stuff happens there.
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an hour and 45.
Yeah.
Do we have any other jobs to cover?
I don't think so.
Did we exhaust
I'll probably
the
think I'll call you
possibilities?
guys. I'll call you guys when you're doing your next
Forgot about
podcast.
doing
Like, wait a second, we have a call.
Yeah.
Hey, I forgot.
I have a tire shop.
Oh, I teach
I rebuild engines.
I teach OSHA safety classes too. That's not a lie. I actually do that. That's another story for another day.
No, we're not going into that.
Let's not go into it.
Because I don't want to hear about OSHA.
You don't want to hear about it. It's a pain.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
All right. TJ Miller.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
The funnier one.
Yeah.
Thanks,
It'd
buddy.
be like the man with was 1,000 faces, like a man
Yeah.
with
Well,
1,000 jobs.
The other TJ Miller has been to prison. I have
Oh.
not. So I feel pretty good on that.
There you go.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you, TJ.
No problem. It's great to meet
Thank
you
you very
guys.
much. Yeah,
Well,
nice
not
meeting
meet
you.
you guys. Great to meet you.
Yeah,
Great to see you. So, see you at a Edgar Allan Poe show.
Yeah.
There you go.